You are watching Mental Health Mondays. What a great day we've had. Dr. Manji this morning or this afternoon, and now we've got Clint Malarchuk. What a story, what a journey, and he's here live. We're going to get up close and personal. But I'll tell you what, I want to bring up my two co-hosts. Of course, my buddy Paul Rosen. Rosie, what's going on, bud?
Just another great day on Mental Health Monday.
It's fantastic, and obviously now we can spin to hockey, even though I got to tell you, Dr. Manji knew a heck of a lot when it came to the Vancouver Canucks. It kind of blew me away.
Yeah, well, considering the fact that he's got all this neuro brain expertise and knows hockey, we got the hockey end of it down, but we've been told we have no brain, so that's that's
Well, I'll tell you what, who's got brains, who helped put this all together, is Chuck Basti. Chuck, how you doing?
He does, yeah.
Hey guys, I'm doing really well. How you guys doing?
We are fantastic. What a great, I got to say, what a great day. Obviously, having Dr. Manji talking to us about, it's called neuroscience. Paul, if you're having any difficulties with that, I actually already got, I got a doctorate on that particular interview, and they sent me the certificate. So I'm now a doctor of something.
What did you say?
Neuroscience.
Neuroscience, great. I can barely turn my computer on. I'm going to know about neuroscience.
Hey, listen, before we bring Clint up, obviously there's a couple things we want to talk about. It's an honor to have him on. Craig Kramer from Johnson & Johnson had told me, I know the story, but I'd never watched, I don't read books, so I got an opportunity then to go and look at his documentary. Wow, incredible. And then I've been following him throughout the last couple of months. An amazing guy, like what he's gone through. And that's what's going to be exciting about this. We can get up close and personal. He's an open book, as he wrote a book. And so I'm excited about, he's a big horse guy too. We're going to talk about that. So
What's
Chuck,
with the long face?
It's a dog. It's a horse.
What's with the long face? Is he sad?
All
Or
right. Oh, come on, stop it. Honestly, what's wrong with you? I like the hat though.
Yeah, he's a cowboy.
Can you wear a cowboy? I can't wear a cowboy hat. The kid doesn't look.
Why would I hide this hair with a cowboy hat? Why would I do that?
One thing, when I had two legs and long hair, I wore hats all the time. But now with no hair and one leg, I don't wear hats.
He's a good-looking kid. He's a beauty.
Yeah, reading through the horse or Clint. Hey, listen, what's really amazing about this thing is Clint's a cowboy, and I think I read somewhere along the way, he's a crazy. They call him the crazy cowboy.
Yeah. Good reason, yeah.
So we'll get into that. All right, he's coming up in a few seconds. Let's talk about, obviously, an absolutely devastating story. Chuck, I actually saw it online. It was a blue toque Cormac and a young boy, and I didn't really catch it. And then I went and read it. Holy Malarchuk. The kid's a hero. He lost his life saving his sister.
Yeah, my daughter lives out in Coburg, and she was friends with Cormac. And there's a good picture of the kid, 12 years old. This is like a Don Cherry moment where you get choked up and it is a beautiful kid. But like when your kid's 12 years old, we had Luke Richardson on a couple of weeks ago talking about the loss of his daughter, and it's every parent's worst nightmare. And if you're out there and you connect or align with this story, as we all do, for young kids who lose their lives at such a tragic young age, there's a GoFundMe page to help the family deal with them. I mean. Apparently, from what I heard, Cormac had actually jumped in front of the car to save his sister as well before they got hit, and basically saved her life. And she's fighting for her life right now in Sick Kids Hospital. She's had 3 surgeries and to reattach her brain stem back, and they've successfully done that. So the GoFundMe links up there on the and if you want to go to, there's a Karen Family 2020 at hotmail.com. You can email transfer if it's $5, $10, whatever. You can do it the Christmas season. I'm sure the family would really appreciate it.
Listen, at the end of the show, we'll make sure Val gets that up. Val, the producer, wanted to thank him. He's done a great job today, and we're going to just have a phenomenal show. Obviously, all our hearts go out to the Karen family and the young lady that's fighting for her life and in the hospital. My goodness, I couldn't even think of that. So thanks for sharing that with us, Chuck.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Listen, obviously, we're here to talk about another incredible story, a story that made headlines around the world, of course, and it still does. And we'll be fortunate enough to have Clint Malarchuk join us. Clint.
Hey, great to be on, guys.
Hey, Clint, great to have you.
We
Is
got
that,
a
do I?
we got a mishmash of hair going on this one, or not hair.
I look the best on. Mine's the easiest to maintain.
Truly.
Clint, don't forget, I'm 2 years older than you, so you better watch what you say. Respect your elders.
Oh, you got a good clock going. You're the best of us.
I'm the best of the bad bunch.
Yeah.
Hey, listen, Clint, thank you very much for joining us. Obviously, I just want to let people that don't know you, we've got a lot of people on the right-hand side. I just want to, obviously, Aaron Kuzak, all the way from Adelaide, Melbourne, listening in, from Brisbane, the Gold Coast. I don't know if you've been over to Australia, Clint, but we do a bunch of events over there that raises money for Stop Concussions and Connected. So Brisbane is saying hello. And of course, Robert Wine, an incredible story. Thank you for joining us. And I know there'll be lots of people coming up. There will be some questions, but this one, Clint, you got to throw something out at this one. Love the white jacket, Chuck.
Yeah.
I didn't get the memo. It was Staying Alive night. It's not Johnny Travolta. It's Clint Malarchuk. I don't know if we got mixed up. Listen, let's talk about Clint Malarchuk, his hockey. You played junior in Portland for the Winterhawks in the Western Hockey League. You then went on to play professionally in the National Hockey League. Quebec Nordiques, a famous franchise, the Washington Capitals, Buffalo Sabres, and the International Hockey League, which is no more, the IHL. I remember that very well. The San Diego Gulls. And I had the fortunate time to go down to Las Vegas, see the Thunder play. You were not playing at the time, but certainly a heck of a career, 338 games in the National Hockey League. Talk to us a little bit about, obviously, growing up. You're born in Grand Prairie, Alberta. We've been out there many times. A good friend of mine lives up in there, in that area. It's hockey crazed. Talk to us about that, please.
Well, I spent most of my minor hockey in Edmonton, the bigger town, down south of Grand Prairie. But I always call Grand Prairie my hometown, and all my family's up there. I was connected. I worked on the kind of a family ranch, not immediate family, but that's where I developed my love for horses. And, I'll just tell you right off the bat, because this is a mental health deal that we're talking about. I struggled as a kid. I came from a home that, and I don't like bashing my dad. He was a great guy, and he was a hero. He was a goaltender too, and he played with no mask back in that day. And then my older brother too was a goaltender and played, drafted by Washington. I was drafted by Quebec, but traded to Washington. But, my dad was an abusive alcoholic, and it caused me a lot of anxiety, depression, obsessive compulsive disorder. And this was all undiagnosed till years and years later. Yeah. But I remember walking home from those outdoor rinks. That's where we played, on those outdoor rinks. And the closer I got to home, I'd have my gear there and I'd be pulling it on a toboggan. And the closer I got to home, the more my anxiety would rise. And this is all in retrospect, mind you. When I was writing my book, I had to think about these things. So for me, looking back, was I really that mentally ill as a kid? I sure showed symptoms. In fact, I was hospitalized once for 2 months at 11 years old. And or was I just like so many of us, product of a kind of a screwed up family, or abusive alcoholic father? And maybe I wasn't mentally ill then, but I was certainly emotionally distressed. And I like to use that word a lot of times because people stay away from the word mentally ill, because who wants to claim that? I know I have, and that's all good. But because of the stigma, it's hard for people to claim. But we can all of us relate to emotional distress, whether it was a divorce or a childhood upbringing, child abuse, an alcoholic father, alcoholic mother, like I said, divorce, being fired from a job, and what we're going through now. Absolutely, 100%. And I really do want to talk about where I am today dealing with COVID.
Mm.
Absolutely, 100%. We'll get there, and I want to talk to you as we get on about our stories. Very similar in the suicide end of it, and I watched the documentary, and I'm fascinated. I don't think you remember me from back in the '80s. I had long hair and two legs back then. But I repped a product called the Backstrip. I worked for a company, and in the mid to late '80s, my three big guys were Pat LaFontaine with the Islanders, Michel Goulet with the Nordiques. That's where I first met you, and then Dave Andrechuk with the Sabres. So that particular night, and I dealt with the trainers, the athletic therapists on the team. So Jim Pizzatelli, who you know very well, he saved your life. I was dealing with him that morning to fix the Dave Andrechuk back protector. I decided to stay and watch that game, and it's something that will stay with me forever, watching you on the ice. Go back to that night and just tell us what that was like.
Well, that night was paramount in my life in a lot of ways. First of all, I almost died, and it was real. I prepared for death. I saw the blood. I saw it squirt 6 feet and then 5 feet and 4 feet. And my blood pressure was getting lower, and I basically prepared for death. I got up and skated off the ice because I didn't want my mom watching on a satellite back then in those days. On satellite TV, watch your son die, because I thought I was done. And I get into the locker room. They're starting to work on me, and I told one trainer, famous guy, Rip Simonik, he was our equipment guy, and I said, Rip, call my mom, tell her I love her. So I don't want to go in a whole bunch of detail because we'll run out of time, but the bottom line is I prepared for death. I absolutely thought I was dying. Therefore, now we have something called trauma, which, was later, 20 years later, diagnosed on me as PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder.
Yeah.
And, and that led down the road to a suicide attempt, which actually got me the help. But what really got me the help, I came back in 10 days, 11 days. And as soon as the stitches came out, and I was advised, hey, take the rest of the season off, maybe think of retiring and all these. No way. I came back, and you know what? I'm very proud that I came back, but I knew no other way. With the cowboy mentality and the hockey mentality, I came back quick. And I rode that upstate New York, Buffalo area. They supported me like you would not believe. And humbly, I will tell you, I became kind of a hero. Even to this day, when I go back to Buffalo, they still remember me and love me because of what I epitomized, what they loved in an athlete,
Right.
Character, hardworking, grit, no talent. and I came back quick. But it was the following season where I really, really started to fall. And I remember, we had a Super Bowl party at our captain's house, Pat LaFontaine, and I hadn't slept in 8 or 10 days, and I didn't know what the hell was going on with me. I really didn't. So I was predisposed as a kid to mental illness, whether you want to call it anxiety, depression, obsessive compulsive disorder. Well, that trauma that I suffered exploded, and now I am the most OCD guy in the world, the most depressed guy. I'm having nightmares and panic attacks. So after the Super Bowl party, I didn't even stay there maybe 20, 30 minutes because I'm not in a good place. I haven't slept. And I remember going back, I was playing with a broken thumb, and I had some painkillers, and I'm trying not to take too many, whatever. But I remember I'm going to take some. I'm reading it. Do not drink with alcohol, will make you drowsy. Well, I took a few extra, and very important. This was not a suicide attempt. It is sleep deprivation and wanting to get sleep because I hadn't been sleeping. So I took a few extra, and then I drained a bottle of scotch because do not drink with alcohol, right? So my heart stopped, and so a lot of people don't know this part of my life. So I almost died, the season before. Now I almost died again, and so I'm rushed to the hospital, and they thought it was a suicide attempt, which it wasn't. And I remember the psychiatrist coming in and asked me questions, thinking maybe this is a suicide attempt. And I said, man, I'll tell you everything. I'm going to tell you what I've gone through. Haven't slept in 10 days. It's hard for me to leave the house with my OCD, which I didn't know I had OCD then. And it's just hard for me to leave the house, cleaning the house. I'd get up at 3 a.m. Well, I wasn't sleeping anyway, so I just get up and start cleaning. Practices at 10 or 10:30, and I made sure everything was gone so I could leave the house and go to practice. And I did all this like so many of us, suffering in silence. And so he was taking notes, and he diagnosed me for the first time in my life, diagnosed with mental illness, depression, anxiety, panic attacks, OCD, and the nightmares. I was waking straight up. That's why I couldn't sleep.
Yeah.
Every time I doze off, I'd see a skate come up.
Yeah.
And I'd sit straight up in bed. And basically, I was like a military man, reliving the trauma. And so I'm diagnosed finally, which was kind of a relief. No, it was a relief to get a diagnosis, because I honestly, guys, I'll get emotional at times. I was so desperate and so screwed up.
Yep.
My heart, my head, my body, my soul, everything was really screwed up. So I was kind of grateful to get a diagnosis. And because it's telling me, basically, Clint, you have a problem.
Right.
You're not crazy, but you do have mental illness. And we don't want to, confuse that, because, the stigma. And that was the beginning of a long journey of 20 years. And it was a long journey. My mental illness did end my NHL career. And being sent to the minors, I went to San Diego in the IHL. Now, I was with Buffalo after that accident, I don't know, 2.5 years before, and my play was just going downhill because I wasn't functioning at all,
Right.
on the ice or off the ice. And so I'm seeing specialists, doctors, therapists, all different medications. And you know what's crazy? I think, and we've come so far medically, therapy, all these things. They put me on a drug called Haldol. And Haldol is highly sedative. And I'm playing in the NHL.
Yeah, facing 100-mile-an-hour shots.
As a goalie, depending on reflexes, I was basically playing stoned.
Yeah.
You're trying to stop 100-mile-an-hour, shot, and you're like, oh, he scored.
The Matrix.
Yeah, scored on me.
Matrix.
So yeah, and getting sent to the minors. I remember my first game in San Diego. I don't know if it was my first game, but it was early, and I let in 3 goals on 6 shots. I get pulled, and I'm in the minors. And Rick Dudley was our coach.
Yeah.
A well-known hockey man.
Yep.
And I sat on after the first period, I sat for the next 2 periods with a towel over my head at the end of the bench and cried through the whole game. Didn't even watch the game because I felt I was just at a loss. So I went into Rick's office, and Rick knew I had some problems. Everybody knew I had problems, issues. And I went in, I said, Rick, I'm done. And remember, this is 2 years after I've been diagnosed. And he said, well, what's going on, Clint? It's just a bad game. You get pulled. And I said, no, Rick, I have not been good in 2.5 years. And he was the one that got me in to see a renowned doctor in San Diego who dealt with OCD and mental illness. And he's a lecturer, professor, doctor. And he got me straightened out like in 6 weeks. Just getting me on the right
6 weeks.
Yep. Well, all these SSIs and these antidepressants and these things take 6 weeks to even kick in.
Yeah.
I remember I'd go see him once a week, and on week 6 I'm driving and I'm going, whoa, San Diego's got nice weather.
That's
So
what normal looks like. Yeah.
my depression was that bad that I didn't even, notice the weather. I was just in darkness, and not just physically, but mentally and every other. And at 9 weeks, oh my God, I was like, I remember saying to myself, and going in to see this doctor, I said, "Is this what it feels like to be normal? Because I've never felt this happy. I've never felt this free. I've never, and it turned my life around for a number of years."
Yeah, absolutely.
And I want to jump in there too as well, because like I've got your book right here. I'll be honest with you, this was a tough read for me, and it wasn't a tough read for me simply because of the story, which was also was, very challenging. But my wife was bipolar, and a lot of the things that you're talking about in this book, really trigger me back to a time and a place where I'm struggling with the reactions and, first wife, second wife, third wife. And
What are you chasing, my record?
your record. No, I'm talking about you, not me. I only had one wife. but
My
going
back
through
door. I'm on my
the book, yeah, going through the book, the stories in them, they just don't stop. And, I'm almost wondering to the point, like, on your standpoint, I know you didn't have peace of mind until much, much later, but what was the turning point for you where you finally tasted a little bit of peace of mind, where you got the medication together, therapy kind of kicked in, those two collision courses aligned you back to what normal is, and that side where you actually felt that? I just thought I'd ask you that.
Chuck, I had no idea what normal. I had no. I have no gauge. I had no gauge on what normal was. Yes, I would look at other kids growing up and going, "Wow, they seem like they're happy," and but maybe they're struggling too, or I didn't even know what struggling was. It was me, and I grew up this way. So that time that I explained in San Diego was the first time in my life where I realized, man, you've lived a life of true mental illness, and it's I was so grateful, and to actually ask the doctor, is this what it feels like to be normal? Because I haven't felt this way. So I had no gauge, Chuck. I really had no gauge on what normal would be, because remember, I was never diagnosed until after the accident, and it was the next season, so 1990. And then nothing worked, and this doctor got the right, because he was a bigwig and renowned, and so everything happens for a reason, I guess. Yes, it was the end of my career in the NHL, but it was also the beginning of me to get help and heal and get better with my mental illness, because I got sent to the minors. So it's a double-edged sword. Um, my NHL career is basically done, devastated. And on the other hand, I didn't give a crap because of where I was in my life mentally. And then once I got that healing and that, and the medications kicked in, I got better.
Wow. I've just been reading as I've gone along here with some of the comments, and it's unbelievable. So, Clint, I wouldn't mind reading some of the comments that are coming up. There's some people, obviously, that know you well. Hi, Clint from Owen Sound, Ontario. Chris Eva Evans. A wonderful girl that's been on with us many times, Kendra Fisher. We are doing a thing called It Takes a Village. Of course, we're doing a mental health initiative over the Christmas holidays. It Takes a Village. She's going to be joining us. She obviously has mentallyfit.com, along with Donna McCarthy. She'll be talking about missing Christmas. Is it a bad thing at this particular moment? And Sandra Elia, a certified food addiction counselor. So thank you for joining us tonight. This one's extra special. You'll know the name. Good friend of mine. Haven't talked to him for a while. Gary Meyer. Please say hello to Clint from me. He lived right across the street from us as kids in Sherwood Park, Avondale Court. I hung out with Garth, and my younger brother, Tim, hung out with Clint.
Yeah, Garth is my older brother by 7 years, and we were hockey crazy. Of course, when I lived in Sherwood Park, Alberta, I was probably maybe 6 years old. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you remember me.
Hey, do you remember? Well, you would know the. Do you ever met Wilf Brooks, United Cycle?
Oh God, Wilf?
Yeah.
Hell yeah, I do. Wilf
God.
and Ken Hitchcock
Absolutely.
Ken worked in the basement. He was like a team guy, and they know that that I, Dad had left, this alcohol and abuse, and we didn't have a pot to piss in.
Yeah.
And between Wilf and Ken Hitchcock, I got my skates. When I was a kid, I collected pop bottles, pop cans to pay for my hockey equipment, and I think they knew it. And they, between Hitch and Wilf, they took care of me.
Yeah. Wilf is such a giver. I've been involved with him for a long time. Gary Meyer, we did a Team Canada 72 event at the West Edmonton Mall. Gary was a part of it, along with, I don't know if Lyle Best, I don't know if you know that name. He was part of the alumni with the, so we went out there and did an event, and Wilf just became a very good friend, and still today. He just recently had a stroke. But he's back to normal. And if you know Wilf, he's got, I'll tell you what, pea and vinegar for 20.
He's got a lot of fortitude, and
Yeah.
I don't think I was the only or the first kid that Wilf and Hitch helped.
No,
And
he's helped a tremendous amount of people.
so
Yeah.
that being said, Ken Hitchcock went on for a great career in coaching and everything, and we coached together in Columbus. I was the goalie coach; he was the head coach, and it's amazing how the hockey world is so small.
Absolutely. It's a family.
Yeah.
And that's why we started this. Obviously, Gooch Live featuring Paul Rosen. We're a hockey news. We talk a lot of hockey. And then Chuck Basti came and said, hey, listen, there's a lot of guys suffering. It's time for us to come together. We're a family, men and women. It's fantastic that you've showed vulnerability by opening up, because, some people think sometimes that's weakness. No, that's strength, of being able to talk about not only what you've gone through to help others, but to talk about your feelings and opening yourself up to sometimes people not understanding. Great comment from David Walter Carlson. The stigma still remains. That must change, and we're changing it through programs like this. But you doing what you do with your wife is absolutely phenomenal. We really appreciate that. There's one more. There's a couple of comments all the way from Adelaide, Australia. Till I met my wife and family, I never knew what normal was. You think everything is going through something similar to that point. So he feels what you have gone through.
Well,
His father.
I have a daughter that lives in Adelaide.
She lives there now?
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. How long she been there?
Oh God, long time.
Well, I'll tell you what, I don't know if we do the Ice Hockey Classic every year there. Of course, we're not going there back this year, but we take NHL, AHL, East Coast League players, Canada versus US every year. And Sam is part on the director of the board of Stop Concussions Australia. So you're going to give me the information, and we'll make sure we get her 2 or 4 free VIP tickets to come and watch the game when we ever get back there.
You know what? You should do better than that. Take me with you.
We need a goalie coach.
No, I'll be a goalie even.
Well, okay, I'm not. We'll talk to Paul. Paul's the goalie guy. Hey, good morning, guys. Mental health problems still seems to be viewed as a weakness by far too many. They don't understand the challenges mental health issues create and the emotion and heartache. It's not just the emotion and heartache for us. Like if you're suffering, it's also the people that are around you, because they have to deal with it. And sometimes they're embarrassed by it because the unknown. And I think that your wife has just been an absolute strength now that you're touring. There's so many comments here. We'll go back to, I know that Paul wants to ask a question here. This will be the final comment, and then we'll get back to obviously hearing your story. Thank you so much for sharing your story. I read your book, and you are a true inspiration to so many people. And finally, Jamie Stelman-Uretsky, she's part of our family of Stop Concussions and Connected Mental Health. Thank you for sharing your powerful story. One never knows what the other is going through. And you wrote a book, and think about it. It's always that when you read a book, don't judge the book by the cover. Get inside and understand the story and the journey. And you have been absolutely phenomenal with sharing with us. Paul.
Hey, that was great listening to you. Clint, I wanted to talk to you about, through the documentary and really getting to know your story. I want to talk about the suicide attempt, because we're really getting into this now, especially on our Mental Health Mondays. And, I didn't realize writing a book. I played 10 years for Canada in the as a sled hockey goalie, and writing my book right now as Roger Lajoie, who's writing it, starts to bring up stories and memories, and it really starts to hit home in the process. And when I attempted suicide 2 years ago, I don't know if I wanted to die. I just didn't want to live. I want to talk to you about that, putting the gun and your wife there and all of that. Was that the same with you? You just wanted the pain to stop?
Absolutely. You couldn't have stated it better. I didn't write a note. Okay. It was very random. And I will tell people before we go any further, I was drinking a lot. I was self-medicating because there's a huge correlation between mental illness or emotional distress and drugs or alcohol.
Absolutely.
So I could have a couple beers and it would calm me down, or my OCD's going nuts and a couple beers, 4 or 5, but the thing is that type of self-medicating, then it's 10, then it's 12. And I was drinking 25, 30 beers a day, but I'm a Canadian and that was American beer. So but yes, sir. To answer your question, did I want to die? Did I want to leave my family? Did I want to leave the world? No, no. And the alcohol, plus what I've been going through, and again, I was going through another insomnia state. And my wife came out. I was behind my barn, and I was shooting targets, and just plinking, as they call it, and she goes, "What is going on?" Like, she knew I'm struggling horribly, but she goes, "What do you do?" Because I'd been up all night. I'm drinking. It was 2:30 in the afternoon. I'm sweating. It's a hot afternoon up here in northern Nevada, and she could just see the pain in my face. And I said, "You know what? You have no idea what's going on. I just wish I could turn my brain off." And I grabbed the gun, and like I said, I've been shooting, and I didn't know if it was even loaded anymore.
Yeah.
And when it went off, I put it under my chin here. When it went off, I was like, "Oh, I'm still awake." I heard it shot.
Yeah.
And I'm going, I should be dead or unconscious, or, and I started walking around bleeding profusely. And it was incredible that I never passed out even. And the paramedics came, the cops came, because it's a gun incident, and they don't know what went on, whether I shot myself or my wife shot me, because she called 911, said my husband just shot himself.
Right.
Yeah, it was chaotic. And they put me on a helicopter, which I wasn't going to get on. I just shot myself. I got a bullet maybe in my brain, and they're saying, "Sir, you need to go." I'm not going. I've stitched my own face up before. In fact, this scar here, where we go, how do I do this on the camera? It's fresh, and I stitched that myself. Um, you know, and that was my mindset. I'm going to stitch myself up, get these people out of here, and I'm going to move on. And it's crazy the way we can go downhill.
Yeah.
In our mental state.
Yeah. We can do some crazy things when we're hurting, eh?
Oh boy. Yeah, random or not. And or some people write a suicide note. They don't want to live anymore. But I agree with your statement, because I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to live in this pain.
Yeah.
I think that's the best statement, and you phrased it very well.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, Clint, because in hearing stories, I mean, everybody has their own unique story. How we connect with that story is basically the empathy that we have for that person, and how we see ourselves, and how we see our feelings, and how we see our pain or our trauma personified. So like I get the fact that some people have a capacity that they use everything they possibly can to get to that one point. They don't have any gas in the tank left, and you're emotionally bankrupt at that moment, and that's your only answer to end the trauma or the pain or the shame or the guilt or whatever is that issue there. My question to you is throughout all this, I mean, you have a very unique story. You've been very, very vulnerable in sharing with your story as well. especially through your book and the documentary as well. What is the hope that you want people to get from your story inside of their own experience dealing with mental illness, dealing with their trauma, dealing with their inadequacies, that they see themselves where that hamster wheel will not stop spinning at night and they can't go to sleep, the anxiety's pumping, COVID's out there, they're not getting their emotional connections to other people, what they used to have. It's heightening everybody's, capacity to deal with this. But what's the hope that you would want people to get for reading your book or hearing your story or being able to share with that inside of their life, that life can move on? What could you offer them?
Well, if you knew, knowing my personality, the way, like, my book is very raw,
Really raw.
really raw. And I thought, like everything else I've ever done in my life, if I'm going to do something, I'm not doing it halfway. And that includes drinking and everything else. I'm OCD and I'm good. So when I started to do it, I said, I'm telling everything, no, all my secrets, everything. And I thought that was, it was so hard to do. It was. But on the other end of that, Chuck, the I played in the NHL and I coached in the NHL. I do have some accomplishments. The hardest thing I've ever done in my life was write that book, but the most gratifying, and I'd put it number one at the top of my success list of things I've done, including playing and coaching in the NHL, that book.
Yeah.
And I went all the way. I went
Oh,
hard.
I know. Like, you went really, really hard. Like, I had to go through this chapter by chapter.
And Chuck, you said it right off the top, and a lot of people said that, oh my God, that was a tough read because of what they had gone through or seen been a part of a loved one going through. And I think it's helped a lot of people, mostly to realize, and this is to answer your question, that they are not alone. Because when we are in our mess of mental illness or emotional distress, we think we're the only ones.
Yeah.
And for me, I remember I thought I was the only one, and I'm playing in the NHL at the time, and I am so screwed up and everything. And I think, oh my God, these guys I'm the only guy. I'm the only guy in this locker room that's going through what I'm going through. And that was tough. And then once you realize there's people out there that are struggling just like you, then I would say to myself, yeah, but not as bad. I'm way more screwed up.
Yeah.
And after I wrote my book and getting all the emails and Facebook and Messenger and, feedback, I went, oh my God, there is so many Clint Malarchuks out there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I had no idea. And that was kind of a big realization. And then after the book comes out, then I'm public speaking and meeting a ton of people that come and hear me speak. And a lot of them have never heard anybody say the crap, say the things and the vulnerability. I tell everything.
Yeah.
And so there's a lineup and people just want to shake my hand or hug me and cry.
Yeah.
And they go, for the first time in my life, I realize I'm not alone.
Right. Hey, Clint, I want to ask you something here, and if it's too hard to, or you don't want to answer it, just let me know what, because what our stories, me, one of the hardest things is, and I know you said you have a daughter in Adelaide, but the kids. So attempting suicide, your family handles it differently. I have 3 kids. 2 are really good, and we're on great relationships. One doesn't talk to me anymore. How was it with your family, what you went through?
Well, I think, and partly because of the book and my openness and honesty in the book, and they've all read it. And, my brother and I, he was my hero. I mean, he was a goalie. He was 7 years older. So that gives that age hero, we weren't like 2 years or 1 year apart.
Right.
And I don't think he understood where I was. I think he maybe had some bitterness and cowardness. for me to attempt suicide. And his wife told him, she said to him, and this is what I heard from my mom, maybe you should read Clint's book, because maybe you'd have a better understanding of, where he's been, what he's gone through, and what the struggles are. So again, I just try to answer your question, just to be as honest as I can, upfront. And it's like you guys are saying, are any questions off limit? Hell no. I'm an open book. I put it all in my book. So anything you can ask me, I've already written about and told and talk about. And I think it's very important to be vulnerable, but very, 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 very important to know that you're not alone, that you're not the only person struggling. And even if you think you're the worst, you're not. There's a ton of us that have been there and go there. So I think it's very important to be that person, to be open and honest. And we're talking about Kendra Fisher. I heard her speak. We were both at an event. We both spoke. I had no idea of her story.
Yeah.
And what she went through. I was like, oh my God, it was so, uplifting, I guess. Again, we're not alone.
Yeah.
To hear her story, it was super awesome. And we're not, we don't keep in contact all the time, but I know who she is. She knows who I am. She knows she can email, text me, and I know I can do the same right back to her.
Yeah.
You are listening to Mental Health Monday. We have got Clint Malarchuk. What a story. The book is phenomenal. I have not personally read it. I'm hearing that from Chuck, but I did see the documentary.
Well, Carrie, it does have pictures. I put pictures for guys like you.
It's got to come with crayons, because that's what I wrote a book too, and it comes with crayons. Hey, listen, I wanted to, crazy. I've met a lot of crazy guys. Watching your documentary, I think you beat a few of them out. You stitched yourself. I've had stitches put in without freezing and almost died. And I'm sure what I was told about here, crazy doesn't even come close to who you really are. If you don't mind, I'd like to bring you back to March 22nd, 1989. I just want to read this quickly so that there are people from Australia that don't know the complete story. But during a game between the visiting St. Louis Blues, Malarchuk Buffalo's Sabres on March 22nd, 1989, Steve Tuttle of the Blues and Uwe Krupp, who we know from our German days, of the Sabres crashed hard into the goalie's crease during the play. As they collided, Tuttle's skate blade hit the right front side of Malarchuk's neck, severing his cardiac. I can't read this one.
Jugular vein.
The jugular.
Yeah.
Carotid, but it was the jugular. Yeah.
Okay, the jugular vein. With blood gushing out of Malarchuk's neck on the ice, he was able to leave the ice on his own 2 feet with the assistance of his team manager, athletic trainer Jim Pizzoletti.
Pizzatelli.
Thank you very much. Many.
I only know that
Hey.
name very well.
Thank God it wasn't a Russian name again. Many spectators were physically sickened by the sight. The excessive blood that Malarchuk lost caused 11 fans to faint, 2 more to have heart attacks, and then there was a former U.S. Army combat medic who served in the Vietnam War. How did he get on the ice? Because he gripped, I guess it was off the ice, when he gripped your neck and pinched off the blood vessel, which obviously helped save your life. He led Malarchuk off the ice, then applied extreme pressure, kneeling on his collarbone, a procedure designed to produce a low breathing rate and a low metabolism state. Malarchuk was conscious and was talking all the way through the hospital and jokingly said to the paramedics, "Can you get me back for the 3rd period?" You lost 1.5 liters of blood, and it took doctors a total of 300 stitches. That is just absolutely crazy. And 10 days later, you're on the ice again.
Well, that's that mentality, cowboy up, you get bucked up, you get bucked off, you get right back on. That's why I came back so quick. And there was a lot of things that saved my life, that aligned to save my life. Number one, the accident happened at the end of the arena right by where we go out, and our locker room is maybe 20 feet away. So the doctors, our team doctor, who sits behind our net, was immediate. Jim Pizzatelli was the Army medic that did what he did. And I always wonder. Now they use my video or that video of me gushing out for training courses for EMTs and paramedics, fire, all these things, and even in schools for teaching. Um, you know, had it been anybody else than a Army medic in front of 20,000 people live and a live TV audience, oh, poo poo pants, right? Uh-uh. He saved my life. There's no doubt about it. The doctor being very accessible saved my life. The ambulance being right by our locker room saved my life. There was a lot of things where I could have, bled out, but I didn't because of, everything that was aligned there. I'm very, very lucky, very fortunate.
When I saw the video, I both Val and I spoke. We wouldn't want to play it, so we didn't put it up. But Sam has posted a Google link if you want to take, or a YouTube link. You know what's ironic, guys? February 10th, 2008, coincidentally, again in Buffalo, Florida Panthers forward Richard Zednik suffered a similar injury. When that happened, Clint, did that bring back floods of emotion, realizing that you had just lived through this and now another young man has gone through it? Did it shock you again, or were you strong enough to be able to deal with it?
No, that kind of fed into a lead up to my downfall into a suicide attempt. I was working with the Columbus Blue Jackets then as a goalie coach, so I'm very media accessible, and I had to relive that story. They're all calling me and talking to me because the same thing happened, and it happened in Buffalo. I mean, it's only happened twice, both times in Buffalo. I mean, that's a cutthroat town.
Bada boom!
Hey,
You could be a.
I love Buffalo, and they love me, and it's all good. I make the joke. But I had so much relive, tell your story. But what I do like about that Zednik story is I heard that the teammates, the wives, the coaches, anybody that was directly involved in one way or another had counseling after counseling, and or access to counseling.
Yeah.
I had none of that, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is so great!"
And it was you
that we've come this far. That I'm hearing that he's got counseling and everything. I was like, I really, it made me think about, a lot of things, but mostly that we've evolved that far, because counseling for me was never brought up, and I didn't think of it either. The counseling I had, this is kind of a funny story. I'm starting to get ready to come back, and Jim Pizzatelli, our medical trainer, him and I walk out in our street clothes. We stand in front of the goal net, and we kind of look around and he goes, "Clint, how you doing?" I said, "Well, this is where it happened." "Oh, yeah. You good?" "Yep, I'm good." Boom, bump, and we're gone. That was the whole extent of my counseling until 20 years later when I shot myself.
unbelievable.
Listen, just before you ask your next question, Clint, Chuck, to Clint, I just want to say that I've got to, sometimes I may look a little bit distracted, but I can't tell you how many messages I'm getting, text messages from people on this right-hand side following it. Clint, you've made an absolute incredible impression, and we can't thank you enough for being part of our Mental Health Mondays. We didn't realize when we started, and Chuck had brought this to our attention, that we should be talking about this because we've all suffered from some form of mental health. I think we all do. It's just that opening up and being vulnerable, I can't thank you enough because it's certainly made a huge difference in many people's lives. And tonight, there are several people making that comment. So thank you. Chuck.
Yeah, it's funny that you see. I'm listening to you tell your story about the night in Buffalo on the 22nd of March, Clinton. A couple of years ago, I think it was like 4 or 5 years ago, I was talking with Michael Delzato when he was with the Flyers. We were down at the Air Canada Center, and he had the same brush, and he had got nicked here with a skate.
Yep, I remember.
Yeah, and it was really, really close. And it was the morning skate, and I was talking to him, and he was really, really composed about all that. And you talk about when you got cut. Had you been on the other end of the odd that night, you wouldn't have been able to make it to the bench. The skate had to be as far as you were. The ambulance being there. The army surgeon as well that helped save your life. I kind of look at this because I don't believe in coincidences. I really believe that the universe is trying to get your attention. To say, "Hey, I'm tapping you on the shoulder," in your white jacket, and say, you're meant for something more than just being a hockey player.
Yeah.
It's not your time yet. This looks like you could have died,
Mhm.
and it's a wonderful staging of this grandiose play that whatever you want to call God, universe, source, spirit, whatever it is out there that manifests this. But your real purpose here is not to be a hockey player. Your real purpose here is to tell your story, is to be connected, is to get out there and share because people need to hear this message as well. So I don't
So,
believe that you were in any danger at the time of dying, as other people, might think, because I think that you were meant to be here to share this story. And my
well,
question for you is, like, when you go through all this right now, where are you right now, after all the therapy, after all the alcoholism, three wives as well, what you had to go through to get to where you are right now, the catharsis of writing the book and getting all that healing out. Where are you right now, and how has that landed for you?
well, you know what, Chuck? That's a great segue of something I say in my speeches. My purpose in life, growing up, uh, and living and attaining my dream to be an NHL goaltender. Okay, my also, and then retire and be an NHL coach. Okay, so I've got a little bit of success, a line that just goes like this. But on the other side, the demons, depression, alcoholism, self-medicating, depression, anxiety, OCD, and everything. So what I thought my purpose was the NHL. And after I wrote my book and doing what I do now as a mental health advocate, these I know what my purpose was. Everything that I have gone through has brought me to a place of realizing where my purpose is. Yes, the NHL success, just playing there, was part of an avenue, and the demons that I went through, and the suicide, and the almost dying 3 times. I had to live that to be able to talk and relate to people that are suffering in silence right now and in darkness, and they think they're alone. Well, how can I speak about that? Yes, the NHL gives me a platform, but I had to go through the demons to be able to actually
100%.
state where I am today. So I believe my purpose, everything in my life that I've gone through, success, and the demons of mental illness and a suicide attempt, is all my purpose, where I can speak to people and be authentic and understand their pain, whether they've been through it or are going through it. And I talk to people all the time. I really do. I'm a life coach. Um, I call it a success coach now, but I've taken courses to be able to understand how to speak to people, because everybody was saying, Clint, you're always on the phone. You're always talking to people. You're big support. You should take that life coach thing, get certified so you can actually, know what you're talking about. But you know what? Since I've taken the course and graduated, I really haven't changed my tune much. I'm a support system of understanding, empathy, and compassion.
Yeah.
I've
And where
been
are
there.
you right now as far as peace of mind? Obviously you're miles away from where you used to be, but for people who are still looking to attain where you're at right now, where are you
Uh,
right now with the clarity that you have now?
I have a program that I follow, a daily program, meditation. I do take medication. So meditation, I work out because it's a chemical endorphin release. So, and then counseling. I don't see a counselor, but if I need to, hell yeah, I'm going to pick up the phone and make an appointment right now. But my biggest medication, I guess, for lack of a better word, my biggest helper for me is being of service, to follow up with public speaking about the book, about my life, to help others, to hug others that for the first time they heard somebody speak or read my book, and for the first time in their life, they're going, wow, I'm not alone. And this guy gets it. And, for me, being of service is the number one. But, I'll tell you where I'm at today, Chuck. And again, I'm very vulnerable and I'm very honest. This COVID thing I haven't spoke since COVID started.
Yeah.
Where's my income?
Yeah.
My income is not there. I do have a horse business, which is, not my main income by any means.
Yeah.
And, I'm a certified horse dentist and chiropractor, but things are slow because people are watching their money. So my wife has a part-time job. She's a figure skater and figure skating coach now. And so that's helping, but I'm going to tell everybody, and I'm sure a lot of you, if not most, well, some people are still working, so you might not relate to this. I have insomnia now, and I wake up, or I sleep 2 hours, and then I got nothing but anxiety about the future. Am I going to lose my property? Am I going to lose my horses? Am I going to lose, and this insomnia and anxiety, and then it'll shoot into depression. So I am like so many people right now. And again, this is me. I'm a straight shooter. I'm not going to lie and say, hey, Chuck, I'm doing awesome. You know what, Chuck? I'm not
living the dream.
I am not doing
awesome. Yeah.
I'm dealing with insomnia, depression, and anxiety. And sometimes I want it all to end. I just want God to, I hope I don't wake up. Well, I can't wake up because you never go to sleep.
Yeah.
And, that's what I'm dealing with. But you know what I tell myself, Chuck, is I'm not alone.
Yeah.
In this battle. I'm not alone in this battle either. A lot of people are being hurt financially, and a lot of people have anxiety and depression now, maybe even for the first time in their lives.
Yeah.
Well said. Well said, Clint.
Again, that doesn't make them mentally ill, but it makes them emotionally distressed.
Yeah.
It's tough times. It's tough times, and I'm going through it.
Your story is just exactly like Rosie's too. I'm just gonna defer to you, Paul, because I know that you're going through the exact same thing, like word for word.
Yeah. Well, because of Chuck, we have a gentleman who came on a couple of months ago, Stephen Morris, who is a certified counselor, and I'm talking to him almost every day now, just because of what's been going on. The last question I want to ask you, Clint, and thank you so much for being on this. This meant so much, and there's a part of me that goes back to that night. I was sitting very close to that door, and I worked in the funeral business for 6 years, so I picked up bodies for 6 years, and that was a scary night for somebody watching, let alone the person it happened to. So my last question for you is, you're doing your talks, and I haven't talked also in like 10 months. So somebody comes up to you and says, Clint, you saved my life. Yeah. Thank you so much. You saved my life. Yeah. How does that make you feel?
Freaking powerful. Like, everything, it makes me feel like everything I went through was worthwhile. And as we've all talked about, my story wasn't an easy one. My life hasn't been an easy one, but again, it goes back to that purpose thing. I know what my purpose is now. No, it wasn't the NHL. That gives me a platform. Yeah. It was the demons that I fought. It was the suicide attempt and surviving. And to be in a place where I can be of support to people and tell people, and I loved your vulnerability right there, Paul, saying, Yeah, I see a counselor. You look like a big, rugged, ugly guy. And,
For sure, ugly.
you got one leg. You're doing what you do with sled hockey and everything, but sharing that you see a counselor, some men are going to look at you and go, "That guy sees a counselor. Look at him. He looks tougher than shit." You know,
Yeah.
you look like a mountain of a man. And for you to share that, and what I share, what Chuck shares, and Carrie, it's very, very important, because I'm going to tell you one thing. I have had people, and I know, Paul, you probably can relate to this, that have said to me, "Clint, you saved my life."
Yeah.
How does that make you feel? Make you want to cry? Yep.
Absolutely.
Make you get a little proud? Yep. Does it make you look up to whatever God you might think of and go, "God, you put me through hell, but now I realize why."
Yeah, very well said, Glenn. Very well said.
Listen, John Cavers is texting me. He's one of our favorites. He's been battling with depression. He's been listening. And he's saying here, I have found by opening up and listening to you, it allows others to open up on their situation. I think that's really crucial because we were, especially men, guys, we kept it within ourselves. And now that we're able to speak freely. Listen, as we wrap this up, I can't thank enough, Clint. Your vulnerability, your compassion to what you're doing is amazing. Yes, it's a little bit tough on not having to be able to speak, but we know that you'll be back and be very, very much appreciated and needed once we get out of this, because you know that all of these incidences of anxiety, depression, suicide is just mounting, and we're just getting over a hump. And listen, there's going to be a slippery slope on the other side. I want to say that, your book, The Crazy Game, if you've not bought it and read it, please do so. The documentary, A Matter of Inches, How I Survived the Crease and Beyond. On December the 19th, guys, we're going to be hosting to understand how much we've all had to pivot. I know that you're in the horse business. We saw a great picture of you with the cowboy hat, and obviously with a horse. We've had to pivot on several occasions. We've been planning an event for about 2 months now. December the 19th, it was going to be our Ice Hockey Classic, which we do in Australia. We were going to stream it live. It was going to be Canada versus US. We had everything planned. It was going to be a closed event, only 50 people, obviously the two teams, and it would be streamed live Saturday at 10 o'clock. And we would allow people to understand that we're opening up and talking about mental health and concussions, and you're not alone. Call us, we're here. We have Stephen Morris, we've got Chuck Bassey, we've got a bunch of great people to help if you are struggling around the world. It was going to be a global event. We then get told that we go in the red zone. So Chuck and Paul and we pivot and we turn it into a shootout. So then we were just going to have 10 people, 2 guys on. They do a shootout and do a couple of skill competition. Man, we're going to do it again, and it's going to be fantastic. Yesterday, or as of today, we've been shut down. So our event is just going to be a 2-hour fun. You can put it up right now. It'll be a kind of a Christmas theme to it, but we're going to get Keith Primo and Wayne Primo on. They're going to talk about, obviously, their experience when they had their little fight together. It'll be stars and stories. And Clint, I would love you to come on for 10 or 15 minutes and share your story, a part of your story, and allow us to hear why we're doing all this. We're doing it so that people like you can have a platform to make sure that people that are suffering in silence don't have to be silent. They can get a hold of Clint Malarchuk. They can get a hold of Chuck Bassey or Rosie, and we're there to help. So that's on, December the 19th. I'll be sending you some details if you wouldn't mind joining us, because you are the goalie, the cowboy goalie, and in the background we see all your great masks back there. And so on this particular evening, we'd like you to take off your mask and help us tell people you're not alone.
Nice segue.
I took my mask off a long time ago.
You sure?
Yeah. Well, I know I should probably wear one. Cover up this ugly mug. But I think it's pretty cool that four men can share their stories, their strength, hope, their experiences, I think I commend you guys for what you're doing. I think it's awesome that you do this. Very powerful. I'm glad to be a part of it, and I will be very glad to be a part of the 19th.
Well, you know what? It's just posted here. Sam Trapolino is helping me organize it. Your daughter will know this. They have an ice rink, right, and it's been refurbished. It looks fantastic. Paul and I have been there several times, working with a group called the Ice Factor. These are Indigenous kids and kids that struggle maybe at school or breakups in families. And Paul, you've been instrumental with helping me do that. We brought them over here in Edmonton in January. Can you believe it or not? Just before the pandemic, thank God. They left plus 43 and arrived at minus 40. We can let your daughter know that you'll be a part of it. Sam, if you don't mind sharing with us later on. Clint, contact information, and we'll make sure she knows exactly what's going on. So thank you.
And Carrie, on that note, my email, people want to reach out. I'm not a counselor. Yeah, I'm a life coach or whatever, but I have a website, malarchuk.com. And my email is canuckranch@yahoo.com. CANUCK, Canuck Ranch. All one word.
I will post. I know Val will try and get it up before we end here, but I will make sure they're posted and people know about that. As we leave you, and of course, I noticed that Sam's already doing the pitch. I look forward to seeing you in Adelaide. So I wonder if that's directed at me, Paul, or Chuck, but I think it's you, Clint. So we'll see if we can make that happen. Dreams do come true. And you mentioned life coach, but I heard you're actually a success coach. Thank you so much, guys. Let us have our final words. Rosie?
No, it's unbelievable. It's been a great day today with Dr. Manji and now with you, Clint. I have respected everything that you have done and been through. And for somebody who has attempted suicide and still struggling, it means a lot to me to hear your story with such passion and conviction. And I'd love to keep in touch with you if you're cool with that.
Absolutely. I you know what you guys are doing? I'm very impressed. This is a very, very, and I do a lot of podcasts. This is a very, very powerful forum that you have. It's going to hit a lot of people, touch a lot of people. The vulnerability I think that 4 men have shown, especially you, Paul, the things you've said, I'm like, wow, because just now you said a man that has attempted suicide and still struggles. Very, very good on you. And so do I, buddy. So do I.
Well, you guys know that we are always here. My phone is on. My virtual phone is on. So, guys, Clint, I'm so glad that we got to talk with you. And this just sums it up. David Walter Carlson, a big fan of ours, watches the show. Suicidal, I for some reason I can't read the word.
Ideation.
I think he spelled it wrong, is affecting all the young people these days. They are feeling hopelessness and miss their friends because of the pandemic. Actually, everyone seems to be struggling these days in some way or another. And how true is that?
Well,
we are not alone.
Gary,
We're all together.
Let me interrupt this real quick. Suicide in Medicine Hat, Alberta. Check that out. It is epidemic. And it tells us we're not doing enough, but it also tells us we're all just trying to get through this. And this is why I really commend you guys for what you're doing and having me on. This is freaking awesome. This is a very professional show. I appreciate you guys. Chuck, we'll work on your hair.
That's
Hey, next.
easy. Come
Okay,
on.
listen.
You can do better than that, Clint. Come
No, I got one.
We'll work
Through
on
the
the
holidays. Hey, through the holidays, guys, we're gonna, if you don't mind, Clint, on the 19th, I'm gonna send you all the details. We want you on, and it's gonna be ugly Christmas sweater, all right? Because obviously that
Paul's already
white coat
wearing it.
ain't holding it.
Well, Carrie, you got my email, you got my cell phone.
Yes, man.
You guys are awful. You guys are awful. Like, listen, before
my
I start
God.
laughing too hard, I actually want to give my final comment. Like, I'm gonna hold this book up here for people to
All
see,
right.
because when I'm reading this book, you know, and the crazy just keeps coming out layer after layer after layer, onion after layer after layer. I'm thinking to myself, my God, I'm a goalie too, and I'm not this crazy, and I'm batshit crazy as a human being. Thank God for Clint Malarchuk, because he's crazier than me, right?
Yeah.
But here's the thing I want to say to people. When I had a wonderful mentor. His name was James McNeil. He speaks with Tony Robbins and Byron Nelson and Richard Branson and all those big boys. But he said, you know, I was explaining to him where I was in a period of my life, just like where we all are. And you're right in the middle of the book. And it gets to the point, and I can actually go to like page 91 where Clint's book is talking about where he put the gun in his mouth and, you know, pulled the trigger and has a hole in his roof of his mouth, and his wife's there and he's blaming his wife for him shooting himself in the mouth, and, you know, all this traumatic. But you can use your own story for this, because we all have one of those moments at that point. And as the reader, you stop and you close the book and you just say, wow, I can't even imagine how Clint Malarchuk gets out of this alive. But there's halfway through the book. And as the reader, you get a little impatient. You go to the very end and you get to the back of the end and you read the final sentence. And the final sentence of your book says, and Chuck Bassey wears a white jacket and lives on and happily ever after. Or Paul Rosen, you know, like keeps his other leg, wears another ugly sweater and comes on the show and lives happily ever after. Or Goosh, you know, now he's keeper of the Stanley Cup with that hair of his. Like, everybody has a happy ending at the end of their story, but we as the reader, in the middle of that fog, we can only see the gun moment in our life. But what I'm asking you to do, if you're in that moment, is close the book and know that there's half the book left, and you still have half your story there, and there's somebody there guiding you to where you need to be that you can't see right now. And at the end of the book, it all works out in the end, but you just can't see how right now. And that may give you a little bit more energy to keep moving on and keep taking that next step that you need to do.
Yeah. Well stated, Chuck.
Hey, it's Mental Health Mondays. We have had a great one. Clint, you were fantastic. Obviously, giving everyone their accolades. I just want to say the host was pretty good tonight. No, sorry. The producer, I want to do a shout out to Val. You've done a great job as usual. Thank you so much for making us all look good, except for Chuck. And we look forward, Clint. You know I love you, kid.
We can keep this funny as well. You know, we're all
Hey, you got to keep
entitled.
it light here, guys. Listen.
Hey, it's called jocular humor.
You got it.
A lot of
It
people,
is. Locker room
Okay,
humor.
stop it already. He's going to go to my gold suit. Eventually, you're going to see me in a gold suit when I did Bye Bye Birdie. Hey, listen, Clint, thank you very much. Rosie, fantastic. Chuck, amazing as usual. And we will be sending you information. And we look forward to, hey, Rosie, you may have an assistant coach coming to Adelaide with you. Could you imagine you and him on the bench? There's no way Zenon and Dennis Maruk can beat you two. There's no way.
Two former goalies, absolutely. I may even pull a thing that I did years ago, coaching a charity event for Gooch. The referee was brutal, and I took my leg off and threw it on the ice.
All right. Final jab goes to Adelaide, our good guy, Sam. Chuck's book's titled Girls Get the Girls.
Right?
Write
Like,
that one
living the
down.
dream, guy.
All right, guys. Thank you so much. That was fantastic. Thanks, Clint.
Okay.
See ya.
Be well up there.
Thanks.
Bye, buddy.
Thanks, Clint.
Wow.
He's a whack job, and I love it.
Yeah, he's a goalie. He's a beauty.
Well, no, but still, hey, listen, for a guy to be, I was getting all these comments from people, and I'm trying to read them, and it's just unbelievable. Of course, our good friend John Cavers, I don't know why he didn't post them here. Maybe I wasn't supposed to say these things. I'm not sure, but he really took this to heart. He's been struggling, and he said he really, really enjoyed listening to it, listening to you guys. Obviously, share your vulnerability. And that's what this is all about, guys. We're all going through something. I know that he was mentioning, there are some guys, I was on the phone with a couple guys, I won't mention their names, and they are crushing it. They have not made this much money in their whole entire careers. They're crushing it, and they know us very well. I'm in the event business and the entertainment business, and as they were telling me this, they paused and said, "Oh, Gooch, I'm sorry. I didn't realize." You know what I mean? Yeah. I didn't take it personal. My business, as you know, Chuck, you're in it. Rosie, you're in it. We may not see another event till September, October, November, right?
But the
We have
vaccine came
no
out
income.
today, so
I
we get some hope.
was supposed to be in Bridgewater, Nova Scotia right now, getting ready to call the Canadian Tire Cup, and then the World Championships in Beijing are canceled, and the Olympics are postponed. But when you guys were talking and we're going back and forth, I just kept getting that image in my head because I was sitting off to the side by the net, and the amount of blood, like while we were doing it, I went back on the video and watched it silently. The amount of blood that was on the ice when Clint left the ice with Jim Pizzadelli. Oh my God, man! It was. I remember them trying to scrape it up.
Scrape it off, yeah.
Insane.
Hey, Paul, can you apologize to Jim? I screwed up his name. I hope he doesn't come out after me or
Yeah,
anything like
I
that.
haven't seen him in years since the early '90s, so I don't think it's going to bother him.
Guys, another great show. I look forward to Mental Health Mondays, as do many. Aaron Kuzak saying the same, guys. We look forward to it. But I'll tell you what, now we got to concentrate. December the 19th, we need everybody on deck, obviously, because we've had to pivot again. And it's going to be one of those nights where we're going to laugh. I almost saw Clint cry. I'll make him cry. I know that with your ugly jersey, or ugly sweater you're going to wear, Chuck, you will make everybody cry. So thank you for sharing your vulnerability and your stories with us tonight. On behalf of Gooch Live, on behalf of the Hockey News, and of course Sports Illustrated, we can't thank you all enough for joining us all the way around the world, and of course you two helping me do what we do, and we're helping people because we're all in this together. Good night.
Yeah. Thanks to Clint Malarchuk. We'll see you guys in the week. Be safe.
Take care.